enjoy.
What is up, my purposeful people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to do a 2-strand twist today. So I'm going to talk about what I'm doing throughout the process and why the 2-strand twists are important to me now. If you watched earlier videos of mine, you would have heard me talk about like waiting to style and waiting to do a lot of manipulation to my hair, and that was so very intentional. Now I'm at the place now where like when I do the styles, I'm like, well, I was patient in the first like year to year and a half of having locks, so I'm feeling that my hair is more mature, more able to maintain the protective styles, and I think a little bit of versatility with my locks is always fun. So I am going on vacation and I want to do a style to my hair. I know that when I just have my locks out, because I don't use a holding gel or a holding cream to keep my locks intact, I just use oil, they come out a lot quicker. So my vacation is like 6 or 7 days long, and I want a style that's going to last the entire vacation. I'll walk you all through the steps of what it's like to keep the 2-strand in. There are specific directions you have to turn the hair and specific tips that you have to use in order for the 2 strands to stay intact. So I will walk you through those points, but let's get started. So I have just washed my hair. I only used shampoo, conditioner. I haven't even oiled my scalp yet. So since I'm doing 2 strands and I'm going to be working on each lock individually, I'm going to add oil as I do each one, but I like to do like a general oil coat while my hair is still a little bit wet, because I know that by the time I'm getting to the last set of locks, my hair may be a little bit drier. And oil is really important to be added to wet hair. So that's tip number 1. When you're adding oil to your hair, make sure that your hair is wet. I keep reading articles and seeing tips that when you add oil to dry hair, it just sits on the dry hair and it doesn't get absorbed into your hair like it's supposed to. But when it's wet, it opens up your pores on your head. It's not only moisturizing the strand of the hair, it's moisturizing the root of the hair. So this is, I'm like almost out, but I have a couple bottles in case I run out today. This is Alikay Naturals Naturally Unique Lock Oil. I'm gonna do a little scalp massage once I put this in my hair, because I really want it to work into my scalp so that it can work from the actual root of my hair all the way to the ends. So I'm gonna oil my scalp, fast forward through this part, and I'll be right back. What is that? Okay. So, I don't know if you saw when I zoomed in close, but that was a lock with like a ton of either shampoo or conditioner in it, and that is no good. So, I mean, I do my best to, I don't think I rinsed out my hair very well at all. I'm gonna do a quick rinse in the sink. Well, this is all important for you all to know as well, because I'm trying to be vulnerable and transparent in all of my videos. So I don't want you to come on here and think, oh, it's perfect, you get it done and right on the first try. Absolutely not. So take 2. I'm gonna try and get all of this out and then finish oiling the second half of my head, and then see if we can't put some 2 strands in. Okay, I think we're good. Note to self, make sure that my rinse time is just as long as my like scrubbing and working out the dirt time. So let's keep going with applying this oil. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's work on this first one. Now I've been doing a lot of 2 strands on other people, not so much myself now, but I feel like I have mastered what techniques to use so that I can keep it tight, keep it intact, and keep that 2 strand looking neat and clean for as long as possible. So I know I did an overall oil, but I like to oil them individually. Just giving them a little more oil at the root and then down the strands. And then I make sure that all of the hair at the root is neat and together. And so what I do is I separate the two, make sure that there aren't any flyaways coming from the nearby locks, which sometimes happen. And then I make sure they're like combed out. So I take an actual comb and then I just comb out as far down as I can. So if you see, like, there's lots of loose hair in here. What I'm doing is combining, or like combing all of that hair down to where the lock begins. Now this part is key. Before you start the 2 strand twist, know which direction the locks turn. I was very intentional in the beginning when I started my hair to not forget what direction my locks turn, because every time I do a style, if I do my locks and they turn them in a different direction, it can lead to like more unraveling, like my locks aren't staying as intact, and I already don't use product to keep hold on my hair, so it's twice as important. Find a way that makes sense to you so that you don't forget the direction they turn. So my hair twists this way. What's really important about 2 strand twists is if your hair twists this way, you can't do the 2 strand in the same direction because it's not gonna hold as well. And when I'm doing it this way, it sort of naturally makes me twist the hair in the opposite direction. So I'll show you what I mean. This probably makes no sense, but as I'm pulling this piece over here, I'm turning my hand back ever so slightly. And if I had my twists going this way, it would be untwisting my hair. So whatever direction you twist your locks in, do the 2 strand twist in the opposite direction so that as you're tightening the 2 strand twist, you're still tightening your locks. So I am doing these fairly tight because I want them to last. Now, when you do the 2 strand and you put the rubber band on the end and then you just have like 2 ends kind of flailing out at the end like that, I don't really like the look of that. So when I do the rubber band, I do it around 2 times, maybe 3, but I don't like the rubber band to be too tight on the ends because I don't want it to lead to like damaged ends and then pieces of the lock falling off in the end, which I have experienced before. So I already did it around once. I think I'm just gonna do this one twice. And what I do is I grab the hair at the very end. So like these little strands here, I keep hold of those and then I just release the rubber band right at the tip so that you can see, like, it's not perfect. There's still little pieces of hair that are coming out, but it's now more of a bud at the end instead of like full strands. So it won't show too much, but yeah, you can see there's still a little bit of separation there at the end, which is totally fine. It's gonna be at the back of my head. So again, I will show you on the next 2. I make sure that all of the flyaways are gone and that I'm just working with the hair that's supposed to be in the lock. And then adding my oil. Adding it down the lock to get as much moisture as possible. And then making sure the root of these locks are as tight and combined as possible. So here's the first one. Again, getting all the flyaways out of here. What's really important when I do other folks' hair is that I use a comb to part. I don't use a comb to part my own 2 strands. One, because I can't really see. If I had another mirror set up behind me and I could see it and I really wanted to take time on it, I would absolutely do that. But for this one, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I just kind of draw my finger around where the lock is supposed to be and make sure that it doesn't feel like it's pulling from a section that it's not supposed to pull from. And then I just go with my gut. So again, my locks twist this way. So when they twist this way, I do them in the opposite direction when I'm doing the 2 strand. Now another thing that's really important when you're doing 2 strands is if I pull and twist this way and I'm doing it straight out, it's probably gonna stick out when I'm done doing the style. So I really like to make sure that I'm keeping my hands in the downward position and I'm pulling and twisting and styling my hair straight down. So when this dries, I don't have hair that's sticking straight out and I can enjoy the style the way that I'm supposed to. Now, sometimes you will find that when you have 2 strands, some hair is longer than others. So these are not the same length. I do a few things with these. Sometimes I will untwist it a little bit and then fold the longer locks so that they become the same strand length, or that they become the same length, and then twist like that. And then other times I just twist as long as the shorter lock and then wrap it around and then slowly start to wrap it back up the lock. And then put a rubber band still at the end of the longer lock. So maybe a little bit higher up the 2 strand. And I think it still looks good either way. So you can't tell that one of these locks was longer than the other. You can see where the end of this one is and stops, but again, it's at the back of my head and you can't really tell. Again, apply oil. And I'm running low. And then I'm going to, I don't think I combed the last 2 strand through. I'm going to comb from root to lock and make sure that all of the hair that's going to be in this lock is combined. And then I'm going to individually turn these in the direction that they go. And then I'm going to twist them in the opposite direction that I'm turning them. So the best tip I have for making them go straight down is to not move your hands a lot side to side and keep them pretty still. Well, yeah, you can move the hair around, but you want to make sure that if these are going to be looking even and neat and all going in the same direction, that you're not like doing lots of this and you're doing more so like still hand movement. I like to keep my forearms like up against my body and then just twist with a little bit of room that I have so that they are sitting the right way. I'm gonna work through these and I'll stop in for more comments along the way. Now, when I always get down to this amount, I'm pulling out dog hair off my head. But when I'm always down to this amount, I think I have about like 12 or so left. Always, 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 always make sure that when you have like individual strands, that you keep counting them. Regardless of how many are left, you should always have an even number. And I just counted and I thought I had 7. I had to recount and realize that there were like 8 right here. But if you ever get to a point where the count of undone locks is odd, that means you have a random straggler somewhere in the back of your head that you missed. That's not what you want. But let's finish these out. I want these to lay flat. I don't want it to be like your typical protective style where I know that in the past when people have gotten their hair braided or like retwisted, the first day it kind of sticks straight out or like sticks straight up and it's really stiff. The goal is to make it not stiff day one instead of waiting like 2 or 3 days for it to actually relax and sit and lay back a little bit. So let's see how I do. I have a few more left. I really like the flowiness of them. They're still very flowy, and I think that's because I used the gravity to pull downward. That way they can fly up and then lay back down as opposed to like me having to constrict them and lay them down this way. Now, I'm gonna do 2 things to my hair and then wrap up this video. So first, I'm going to lay my edges. I'm gonna lay it down with a satin scarf. I am going to then sit under the dryer. Now, I don't have some fancy dryer. I got this on Amazon for, I got it years ago, so I couldn't tell you how much it was. But it was less than, I'd say, $12. So, this little doohickey, this part goes on my head and inflates, and then this end attaches to my blow dryer. But that's it. Thoughts on my style? I would just like to give myself a little bit of credit because I don't give myself enough credit sometimes. I'm really proud of the way my hair came out. I took my time on it. I applied what I learned when I do other people's hair onto my hairstyles in hopes that it'll stay the entire week and I don't have to worry about what I'm gonna do to my hair while I'm on vacation. And it looks good. I'm feeling confident. I don't have short 2-strand twists anymore, and I like that I can incorporate this style a little bit more. It's gonna be one of my go-tos for sure. But it worked out really well. I didn't have a lot of leave out in the front, which makes me think that it'll last a while. And I liked the way my ends came out. I know sometimes I have to do lots of folding over and have to worry about one lock being shorter than the other, but for the most part it worked. Again, if you do end up with a lock that's longer than the other when you get to the end of that 2-strand, just wrap it back up around in the same direction so that it lands in the grooves of the 2-strand twist and doesn't look too weird. You can identify the ones which were longer than the other. You can identify the 2 strands that had uneven ends because the rubber band may be a little bit higher up and not on the end because you worked it back up and then you had to put the rubber band where the end of the longer lock ended. I'm proud of myself. I'm happy with my hairstyle. I'm glad I don't have to worry about what I'm gonna do for my vacation with my hair. I'm happy that I'm taking time to dry my hair fully and not rush. And I'm happy that I am still creating content. This is something that I struggled with for a little bit in the past year. for several reasons, because I was busy, because I made excuses, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm creating when I receive a word on what I should create. So I'm feeling very good after this video. I'm feeling good about my 2-strand. I'm feeling good about the information I shared with you all. Hopefully you got some good tips and tricks on how to do 2 strands, whether you have locks or not. And leave a comment on any thoughts you have, any questions you have, if there's anything that needs a lot of explaining or better explaining, because I know in my mind sometimes things make sense, but when it comes out of my mouth it may not be as clear. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up as well. Leave a comment if you have questions or you just want to share something fun, and then subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this. Again, what I say at the end of every video, make sure that you set a goal for the day, for the month, for the year. Make sure that you achieve that goal, because good enough isn't. Thanks, you all. Bye.
Because you push play.